Guys, so just got home from the gym. Like I said, I was gonna go to the gym to do legs, which is hamstrings and calves, a little bit of glutes, and biceps. That was gonna be the workout. So let me tell you what happened. Okay, go to the gym, and I always do a warm up. Either the stairmaster, the treadmill, or the bike. I'll pick one of those machines and just do like a little 10-minute warm up. Especially in the morning, it's first thing in the morning. I just woke up not too long ago. So I definitely need to do something to get the blood circulating a little bit. So I go on the treadmill, do my regular 10 minutes, listen to some cool music, kind of pump myself up a little bit, which is what I always do. The warm's over. I go to the leg curl machine for my hamstrings. And something that I do personally, I don't know if you guys do this, but every time I go to a machine or I'm about to do an exercise, I take a second to just stand there and I have to think in my head and I have to visualize how that muscle looks while I'm doing this certain exercise. So let's for the leg curl, the hamstring curl. For example, I'll visualize my hamstrings contracting. I'll visualize them stretching. I'll visualize the fibers. I'll visualize the separation. I'll visualize the veins. I'll visualize everything. I'll visualize how they look on the side, chest pose. I'll visualize everything. That's what I do before going on the movement. That's what I think about while doing the movement as well. That's how my mind works, and I really think about that kind of stuff. So I go to the machine, and typically I would do that. Typically I would think about it, but I stand there, and I'm not able to create those thoughts. I'm not able to visualize. I'm thinking. I'm really trying to work on my visualization right now because I want to work on it. I want to kill it. I want to do hamstrings, but it's not working. I find myself thinking about being fatigued and being exhausted. I'm thinking about the injury that I have, which is my knee. I'm thinking about, why I can't do this and why can't I do that. That's what I'm thinking about instead. So I'm like, man, this just can't happen because if my mind is not there, I'm not even going to try it. My mind has to come first. My mind needs to be in the movement first. It needs to be in the muscle, mind muscle connection, guys. So I'm there standing and I'm really trying to just, focus on my mind, really trying to think about the movement, and I'm just like overwhelmed with just feelings of, why, questions almost like, why can't I, perform? Why can't I do this at 100%? So I'm like, what, let me just do biceps, because it's hamstring and bicep days. So I go over to the preacher curl, the machine preacher curl. Same thing, I'll stand there, I'll think about it. I'll visualize the biceps, stretching and contracting. I'll visualize the veins, the separation, how it looks, inner front double bicep, all that. I'll visualize it. But instead of visualizing that, same situation that just happened, man, I'm like, why can't I do this? Why is my feelings compromised? I'm kind of asking myself questions at this point. Why am I not able to properly, get into this movement right now? And of course, it's all because of the injury. This is probably the first time in my life where, my mind is compromised. My body has been so exhausted before that I just could not push it. I mean, like I've pushed my body through, 2 hours of sleep. I pushed my body through 3-hour workouts. I pushed my body through, training 2-3 times a day. My mind has always been, up for doing all that. My mind can push my body damn hard. But, for one of the first times in my life, it is my mind that is not able to push, and that's something that's very odd for me. That's something that is foreign to me. I've always been able to push my mind, always. My mind definitely has a strong desire to train and work out, and it has a powerful love of working out as well. But that just was not there this time. I just didn't feel it. I didn't feel my regular desire. I didn't feel my regular need and necessity to, get into the weight and train. I didn't feel that. And, it's just the fact that I know I cannot perform 100%. I can't. I know that, I might be able to do hamstrings, but I can't squat. I know if I go over to just the bare 45-pound bar and try to do 2 reps, I'll pretty much collapse and my knee will kill me. I know I can't even go over to a deadlift and pull 4 or 5 or 315 like I used to. I used to be doing 4 or 5 for 12 reps. I don't even think I can do 1 rep right now. I realize that I can't even, dumbbell press. When I pick up the dumbbells, it's awkward on my knee and I feel it hurts. I can't even drive from the ground up when I bench press. So, I'm just thinking about, my mind and my body and everything, and how just, the activity that I love is compromised and I'm not able to, be 100% at it. And like I said, man, my mind hasn't really been, compromised like that before. That is something that's completely different to me. I've never, you know, not been able to push, my mental capacity. But at the same time, maybe I just need a break. I just need to maybe take a step back and kind of give, my body, my mind a little bit of a break. Just take like a couple days, a week, or maybe even 2 weeks off. And just work on other things in my life, I guess. I mean, it happens, guys. We all go through things where, life is just kind of like, it sucks. But, a good friend of mine reached out to me, Corin. If you definitely want to check him out, link is down below for his Instagram. He actually came second to me in the World Championship, the show that I did in December. He almost beat me. He was just shy of point 0.4 points. Point 0.4 points of taking me out. I actually had him winning in a couple poses, man. He looked freaking phenomenal, definitely. But I took everything you said in consideration. I believe it, man. Like he was telling me about the mind. He was telling me about just, be positive. It happens to everyone. Something that he also told me is that, when you're injured, for me, in my case, my knee's injured. That one knee is injured. My whole body is not injured. So I can still work out. I can still train. But I just have to work with it for the time being until it recovers. But, that being said, I'm going to take a couple days off, just kind of rest myself and get my mind, back to where it needs to be. I'll definitely pick up a couple books from the library. Yes, I have a library card. I'm going to pick up a couple books, just to, read, get my mind back in a more, stable place where I can, create more positive thoughts for myself. I'm definitely going to be working on that. I need to. We all can, work on the mind and our mentality. We can. So, I'm going to take a step back from training, just going to take a little bit of time off, a couple of days, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, just as much time as I need, for me to, kind of rejuvenate my love and my passion, my desire for training. I have the passion, I have the desire, I have the love for it. But currently I need to get over this, mental hurdle of, just thinking about the injury every time in the gym. I need to take thinking about the injury and start thinking about, okay, well, I can still train and kill back. I can still train and kill shoulders. I can still train and kill calves. I can train calves, no problem at all. Even though my knee's bent, it doesn't hurt when I, do a seated leg, when I do a seated calf raise. So, just an update, guys, let you know what's going on. I'm working on the mind. That's number one, as always. This is Nick Ross, guys, Bodybuilders. Thank you very much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button. See you next time.